Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video. And we all know I like to have my opinions. I like to throw them out there and be very adamant about them, but you know what's also a good thing to do is admit when you're wrong and basically have a laugh at yourself, evaluate how you've come to these decisions, these opinions and all that. And I thought it would be fun today, as an example of that, to take a look at my Scholomance Academy review and basically pick 10 cards that I evaluated absolutely incorrectly, whether I overrated it or underrated it, and for the most part, there's a lot of underrated cards here, and I thought it would just be a fun little experiment to take a look at what cards I got absolutely wrong from Scholomance Academy. So let's take a look. I don't think this will be in any particular order. I've got 10 listed here, and I just thought they were interesting, so let's start off. Again, no particular order, but I'll just say 10, 9, 8, 7. You know, we'll just do that because it's just easier that way. So, at number 10, we have Penn Flinger. It's a 1-mana 1/1 neutral minion, and it deals 1 damage to anything. It can be yourself, an enemy character, minion, whatever. And has Spell Burst, return it to your hand. So when I evaluated this, I looked at it, I'm like, well, it's Elven Archer. It's a bit better than Elven Archer, but do you really care about bouncing a 1 damage minion that many times? Like, you really going to want to put this in your deck? And apparently, yes, you do. Whether it be in Penn Flinger like Libram Paladin, Penn Flinger Quest Shaman, Dark Glare Warlock in Standard and Wild, where you're self-damaging yourself. There's just been so many different uses of it. I've seen it in Reno Priest, and it's just been extremely flexible, versatile card that's done a lot of interesting, good stuff. And even like Aggro Rogue can manipulate it with like Secret Passage and just keep using that as more and more burn and combo enabler, whatever you want. Very good card. I rated it 1 star in Wild and Standard. I was that low on it, and for me, I think it's turned out to be basically a 4-star card in both formats. It's just been a very, very good card in a lot of decks. At number 9, we have Vectus, a neutral legendary. It's a 5-mana 4/4, and it summons 2 1/1 whelps, and those whelps gain a death rattle from friendly minions that have died this game. And I thought this would be like an auto-include in any death rattle deck. Like, it's like a 5-mana 6/6. You get 2 1/1 tokens. Like, it just seemed really good, and I have literally seen it played once, and it was terrible. Somebody played it with, like, Violet Spellwings and stuff. I'm like, wow, you got some Arcane Missiles. The thing is, in Standard, there's just not a lot of Death Rattle stuff going on. It's not really worth running this card. And in Wild, it's just a bit expensive, and again, the Death Rattle stuff isn't really going on that much. The only thing that's really going is, like, Q-Block, and it's a bit slow for that, and what are you going to get that early? Like, it has anti-synergy with cubes, and it just really hasn't popped up, and I rated this 4 stars in Standard and Wild. I thought for sure this would be a very strong card and see a lot of play, and so far it hasn't. But it's definitely a card that could pop up at some time, but right now, I've been absolutely incorrect about this one. Speaking about being absolutely incorrect, at number 8 we have Glide, the Demon Hunter spell that draws 4 cards. It swaps with your hand, and you draw 4 cards, and Outcast your opponent does the same. So there was like a 4-mana draw 4, and you screw with your opponent's hand. That's got to be insane. And this was before Voracious Reader was shown. This was before Secret Passage was shown. But even then, like, playing the Demon Hunter decks and seeing what they're doing, if it wasn't for Voracious Reader, Aggro Demon Hunter probably would consider running this, but maybe not. I think Skull Gul'dan is still just better. And yeah, it's just the effect that was really problematic and troubling to a lot of us. The whole disrupt your opponent's hand, and just, you're looking at the raw power value of drawing 4, screwing your opponent's hand. It just seemed really powerful, but I have not been glided yet. I've actually yet to be glided, and we're over a month into the expansion, so I give this 5 stars in Standard and 3 in Wild. I probably have to give it like a 2 in Standard and like a 1 in Wild. Like, it's just not really that great. It's not it's not that cancer card that I thought it was going to be, at least not yet. Number 7 on the list is a dual class spell, and that's Cutting Class. It's a 5-mana spell for Rogue and Warrior. Draw 2 cards and it costs 1 less for the attack of your weapon. And I give it pretty middling marks for Rogue. I thought it'd be a little bit better in Rogue because you could buff your weapon a little bit there. So I gave it 2 stars in Standard in Wild. And in Warrior, I just didn't see it. I gave it a 1 in Standard and 1 in Wild. For the most part, Cutting Class really hasn't seen much play in Wild. But in Standard, it is core in Bomb Warrior. It's very good there. And in Rogue, it sees a ton of play in Standard and Wild, with Secret Passage just being able to use this so well, because you draw your weapon buffs and then you draw into Cutting Class, and then you have 0 mana draw from your Secret Passage. That's crazy. So the card has basically been 4 stars across the board for Rogue in Standard and Wild, and for Warrior it's been like a 4-star card in Standard. And again, I gave it 1 star in Wild, pretty much. I mean, I guess I'd give it like a 2, but wasn't too far off on that. But everything else definitely missed the mark on like how powerful it works with your other draw, like especially again in War you have Corsair Cache, and it really does work with it. I just didn't see that people are going to start hard running Upgrade, but yeah, Cutting Class makes it worth it. Number 6 on the list is Disciplinarian Gandling. It's the dual class Warlock and Priest Legendary. It's a 4 mana 3/6, and whenever you play a friendly minion, you turn it into a 4/4. I rated it really low in Priest, and it's been unplayable in Priest, but I rated it really high in Warlock, where I said it would be a 4-star card in Standard and a 3-card start in Wild. I just thought with all the lackeys and all that support, that Gandling would just be really good. You play it and you just play a bunch of cheap stuff and get 4/4s. But it's one of the worst performing legendaries of the expansion. It's done absolutely terribly. And that's in Warlock. And Priest, you might get it randomly off an Invoke here and there, but the card just has not done anything in Standard and Wild. People did experiment with like in Wild with like Wisp and like all the 0 mana minions, but you have to draw this one card or draw Hobgoblin, and it's just not worth it. And then Darkglare Warlock took over, and Disco Lock's still just better. And yeah, in Standard, regular Zoo has been better, and it's just not there. But maybe with the nerf to Darkglare, people try it again. But when you have one card and you got to build your entire deck around it for that one high roll, I guess it's just not worth it, and this is not a high enough payoff. So definitely overrated this one. Number 5 on the list is Plagiarize. It's the Rogue secret that you basically get a copy of every card your opponent played the last turn. I felt like Rogue has enough value. They never need this. Opponent can easily play around it. So I gave it 1 star in Standard and Wild. And for the most part, Secrets never really see play in Wild, so that's kind of a write-off. But in Standard, this card has been included in a lot of decks. It's just been really good. It's like, whether you get 1 or 2 cards, it doesn't matter that much. It's forcing your opponent to play around it. And sometimes, you know, they have to play cards. You have a Hanar on board. You have a Questing on board. They have to do something to deal with it. And you play Plagiarize, and then you get all this value and all this stuff that they had to use to remove it, and it ends up being very good. And the card has just done work. Has it been like a 5-star card? No. It's like a 3 or 4-star card, but I wrote it off as unplayable, one of the worst cards, period. And it definitely has not been that at all. It's been a very, very good secret in Rogue. Number 4 is one of my biggest misses, is the Paladin spell, 0 mana, First Day of School. You add 2 random 1-cost minions to your hand. I rated this 2 stars in Standard, 1 in Wild. And yeah, it's turned out to be an incredibly good card in Libram Paladin, or any Paladin you want to play, honestly. You just can put this card in there, and it's good enough that it sees play in Wild. That should tell you how powerful it is. And when people have talked about potential nerfs to Paladin, if there were to be some, because Libram Paladin win rates have been high at times, this is always the card that comes up, because it's just so good. Turn 1 play, you get almost always a good 1-drop, because a lot of 1-drops create more value, or they have good stats, or whatever, and it's just been incredibly powerful, and I was incredibly wrong on this one, and everybody told me I was wrong on this one, but I wouldn't listen, and now I have to eat my words. First Day of School, for me, I think is a 5-star card in Standard, and probably a 4-star card in Wild. It's absolutely incredibly good. Next on the list, as mentioned earlier, is Cabal Acolyte, the Priest Epic. It's a 4 mana 2/6 card, and it has Spellburst, it has Taunt, and it has Spellburst that you gain control of a minion with 2 attack or less. And yeah, I'm like, the Taunt, we've always seen these 4 mana 2/6 taunts, they always suck, and the effect is like, okay, no, it's really good. The effect's really good. Whether you just steal anything, it's good. And when you have Wave of Apathy and you can use Lazul's Scheme, it gets absurdly good, where you can steal literally anything, and it's incredibly powerful, incredibly frustrating to face, to be honest with you. And even synergy with like Raised Dead, you get more of them, or just the Raised Dead procs it, it's incredibly powerful. So much that it's been nerfed from a 4 mana 2/6 to a 2/4 to try and, you know, bring Priest down just a little bit. So yeah, I gave this 1 star in Standard and in Wild, and although the card hasn't seen any play in Wild that I'm aware of, it was absolutely an incredibly good card in Standard. Was it a 5-star card? I don't think so. I think it was a really strong 4-star card, but I thought this was unplayable garbage. I was completely wrong on that one. Next, we have a mage spell, Cram Session. It's 2 mana draw card and it increases with spell damage. So you have 1 spell damage on board, you draw 2, and then 3, 4, etc., etc. And I gave this 1 star in Standard and Wild, and pretty much hasn't seen play in Wild, but in Standard, Tempo Mage has been built around this. You have the Discover spell damage card. You have the insane new 1-drop. And you even had like Mazaki Mage, which took advantage of this. You could draw like 10 cards with Double Girl and just a bunch of spells, and that created like that OTK deck. Although that has completely fallen off, but Tempo Mage or Small Spell Mage, whatever you want to call it, is a legitimate tier 1 deck, and Cram Session is a huge part of that. You often draw 2 cards, and that in itself is good enough. And then anything more on top of that is just insane. And for me, I thought you needed to hit like 3 or 4 cards to make it worth it, but no, just 2. It's good, and it's so easy to accomplish that I don't know how I evaluated this one so badly that I gave it only 1, but I did. So I gotta eat it again. This was one of my worst whiffs, and definitely one of the better cards. I won't give it a 5, but I definitely give it a solid 4 stars now. And last, but certainly not least on the list, is Guardian Animals. Yes, the dual class Hunter and Druid card, but it's a Druid card. It's a 7 mana spell that summons 2 beasts out of your deck that cost 5 or less, and you give them Rush. So you get your Twilight Runner, you get your taunts out, you do all of that, you draw a bunch of cards, you play it on turn 1 or 2 if you high roll with Lightning Bloom. It's incredibly powerful. It's made Druid ridiculously good in Standard. I gave this 2 stars in Standard. I said it might see a little bit of play. A little bit of play. Yeah, I'm stupid. And then in Wild, I gave it a 1. It's good enough that it sees play in Wild in both Jade Druid and Tog Druid. It's really good there, too. This card's ridiculously busted. I'm surprised it didn't get nerfed in the last wave. But we'll see what keeps going on. I mean, Druid needs something powerful, and that's outside of Gibberling. This is all they really got. But holy crap, is this an insanely good card. Cheating out those beasts, thinning your deck, drawing at the same time, generating taunts, doing insanely good stuff, winning games on the spot. This card is a 5-star for sure in Standard, and a 4 in Wild. Unbelievably good. And the fact that I said it might see a bit of play, yeah, I might need to work on my reviewing skills for the next expansion. But that's what this video is about, having some fun, taking a look at my screw-ups. Let me know in the comments below, did you screw up on any cards? What did you overrate? What did you underrate? Or what did I miss from my reviews that, there are a couple that I didn't mention. It's only 10. I definitely made some other mistakes, but hope you guys enjoyed it. And it's always fun to poke fun at yourself. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.